what it is to be part of Indian country. I'm not scared of that conversation. I welcome that conversation.
Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming on to the YouTube channel here. I have the awesome opportunity to talk with Taboo Nawasha. He is Hispanic, Latino, and Native ancestry. He's of course known as a member of the musical group The Black Eyed Peas. He is a rapper, singer, songwriter, dancer, actor, DJ. He's a writer, and he's the author of a book recently released called The Kid's Book about identity. So we're super happy, super honored to have you on here today, man. How are you doing today, Taboo?
I'm good, brother. You know, it's definitely an honor to be able to speak to you, but also to just get the message out to all the relatives that are tuned in, all the allies that are tuned in. Thank you for tuning in and checking out this much needed conversation. You know, I've been a fan of this man for a while now, and just being able to share space and conversation and do it in a very high level perspective, humility, vulnerability, but ultimately leading with love. It's a proud moment in my career.
Absolutely, man. Hey, and like I said, prior to us coming on to the thing, I was just telling Taboo, like I wouldn't think I'd ever be in this position in a million years, man. And to hear that from you is a huge honor, man. I super appreciate it, and you taking the time here today. So first off, I've always wondered this a little bit before we get into the deep stuff. I just got to know, how did you guys? How did you come up with the name the Black Eyed Peas? I just got to know. I've never thought about it. But more I think about it, the more questions I have. So yeah. How did that happen, man?
So 1992, will.i.am and Apple were part of a dance crew called Tribal Nation. And I was part of a group called Tribal Brothers. And then back then it was like the tribal thing, like Tribe Called Quest, you know,
sure,
the native tongues. Everything was about, I guess you could say at the time, everybody was trying to find their own tribe, metaphorically and literally. I found my tribe within Apple and Will. They became my brothers, you know, and this was in 1992. 93, they got signed to Eazy-E on Ruthless Records, NWA era, yep. And Eazy-E signed Will and Apple and my other brother Mook, and they basically went from Tribal Nation, the dance crew, to a Tribe Beyond a Nation, or Ab-Bang Clan. And at the time, Black Eyed Peas was the production company, but it was Black Eyed Peas, not Eyed with a D. It was just Black Eyed Peas Productions.
Black Eyed Peas, I gotcha.
Yeah. And so it was just a production name, which kind of died out after Will and Apple were no longer on Ruthless Records. Fast forward to Eazy passing away in 95. Will and Apple wanted to start a new thing. I was part of the family called Grassroots. And so Will was like, yo, why don't you rock with me and App? We're going to start a new journey as a new group. And so I was like, yeah, cool, let's do this. It's 1995. We're 19-year-old kids, dollar and a dream. And I said, what do we call this? He's like, we're going to call it Black Eyed Peas, but with a D, Black Eyed Peas, and we're going to be a live band. And so from that time, you know, we always tell a story about how the name came about. So it was like, yo, what are we going to call the group? Oh, what about Blue Unit? Nah, that's whack. What about Beans and Rice? Nah, because you're the only guy with the Mexican ancestry, and I grew up in East LA. What about Black Eyed Peas? Black Eyed Peas, that's soul food. Wow, we feed the soul with our music. So that makes sense to have Black Eyed Peas as the name, which to this day, like, there's not a lot of food representation in music. You have the Red Hot Chili Peppers, you have Cake, you have Black Eyed Peas, but there's not really a lot of food groups or food names. And it was cool because it kind of stuck. It stuck with the mission of wanting to feed the soul with our music and just our positive energy. And the rest is history.
That's awesome. I did not know it was going to be that it's that deep of a name, but hey, feeding the soul through your music, man. That's super dope, man. That's awesome.
Where does Che Jim come from? Not Che Guevara, right?
It does.
Oh, okay. All right.
It does. Yeah. Believe it or not. So for my name, all right. So this is kind of a funny story. So on my dad's side, I'm Navajo, Dene, right? Mm-hmm. And then on my mom's side, I'm part Latino,
Mexican,
Hispanic, and then some other smaller tribal nations as well. But when I was born, my mother really wanted, she's a lifetime revolutionary. Like, she's been super into activism right? She was, they're part of the movement early on in the early 80s is when they got involved with the, American Indian movement and stuff like that. So my mom really wanted me to, like, for her son, she wanted me to have more of a revolutionary, energy to me, somebody who was gonna, you know, to have that resistance in them towards the assimilation and colonism and or colonization and all that kind of stuff. So, and at the time her best frame of reference for me was Che Guevara, so she came up with the name and decided to name me Che Guevara. A few things about that. So, and it's funny because in the Navajo language, Che means like grandfather or like grandpa, so people will often refer to their grandpas as Che.
Yeah.
And I don't know why my dad never stopped her from naming me Jay, because to this day, whenever I go back home on the reservation and someone says, "Hey, Che," me and like four old dudes turn around,
Right.
and so we have to like make a distinction. But yeah, no, I was absolutely named after Che Guevara. Definitely a controversial figure, in a lot of ways, but I think the image, especially his image as being like the image of revolution, is something that is I think she wanted for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, funny story there. But all right, so and you had mentioned you grew up in East LA.
East
And
LA.
East LA. And
Yeah, so I want to jump into it, bro, because a lot of people will. The thing that I found out, being a mixed kid, multicultural, having mosaic of backgrounds, a lot of time people be like, "Well, Mexican is not a culture," or what's your indigenous side on your Mexican ancestry? Are you Mexica or Azteca? Are you Maya? Is your family from the Yucatan Peninsula? Are you Toltec? Are you Olmeca? Are you a Oaxacan? There's all these different variations of south of the border relatives in ancestry that comes from the fact that I have a Spanish last name. Yes, we talk about colonization, we talk about the Spaniards and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, my upbringing was rooted in a very Chicano East LA influence, right?
Yeah.
And so Chicano is just another terminology for Mexican American. Whether you like the word Mexican or not, I think it's a good conversation to have, because I don't know my indigenous ancestry on that part of my upbringing. I didn't grow up in Sonora with my ancestors. I didn't grow up with my grandfather like that. But I grew up with my grandmother, who was from Jerome, Arizona, and her love for her indigenous ancestry and her advocacy and her teachings, her ways of being the matriarch to my tribe. She never claimed LA. She hated LA. She loved Arizona. She loved Jerome, Arizona. She loved the idea of all the territories, the Hopi, the Navajo, the folks that migrated, the Shoshones, all the different people that had come down that make up the DNA of my background. And so growing up in East LA, I felt like I needed to do a deep dive in information and not being one-sided where I only think I'm one thing, right? Because there were many things. And I said it in the book. I said it in this book that I wrote, and I purposely wrote it in Spanish too, so that Spanish folks that are of Latino descent or Mexican descent, because a lot of people are like, "Well, I'm not a Latino, I don't speak Latin," but that's what the world is known to say about Spanish-speaking countries, right? So I want to get it politically correct, but there's also going to be our relatives that are very hardcore sensitive about terminology. And then I did this book in English for the folks. And then it says, your identity can be a lot of things: your heritage, gender, hometown, school, faith, or even what you've been through. The awesome thing is nobody's just one thing. Your identity can grow and change as you do. The book explores all the different parts of identity. Who are you? What do you love? And what's true about you? So whatever definition of identity you connect with, wherever your background or your upbringing is, you have room to be able to gain knowledge of self and educate yourself, just like I did, man. And the fact that I'm an urban native and wanted to reconnect, and all the terms that people use It's something special to me because I grew up in East LA, then I moved to Rosemead, now I'm in Pasadena, and it's a mosaic of different cultures. So I learned a lot about different people, different nationalities. But at the end of the day, I wanted to do a deep dive into myself and not be afraid to not know everything, bro. Not claim to know everything. I'm not the all-knowing native guy. I don't know everything, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm self reassured that learning and educating myself each day is part of my journey to reconnect and to establish myself. And I don't speak for all tribes. I don't speak for all nations. I just speak as one voice and one advocate person that wants to just lead with love and inspire. And unfortunately, what we have, Che, is we have a lot of people that'll try to call you out, like, "Oh, that's a pretendian. Oh, where's his blood quantum? Let me see his card. Where's his
Right,
Indian
right, right.
card?" You have that, and unfortunately, a lot of us are walking on eggshells and wanting to, like, "Oh my God, if I misstep, then somebody's gonna try to like pull my card." I'm like, yo, I embrace all that, man, because I'm not scared, bro. I'm not scared of cancer. And that type of conversation is cancer to me. And guess what? I battled cancer in 2014 and I beat it. And now I'm a survivor of cancer for 10 years. So any words, any type of negative frequencies, any like keyboard warriors that are trying to come at you and try to like navigate all this negative frequency, bro, I send love, I send healing, I send good medicine to those folks too, because something's up with them. They want to be bringing us down, and the reason why I tell you this is because you're a mixed identity as well.
Yep.
And us as urban natives and natives that are connecting and wanting to embellish and really appreciate both perspectives, it's something for us to really understand that why can't we acknowledge both sides? Why can't we be proud of our upbringings? Why can't I be proud to speak Spanish and also want to learn about the Shoshone and learn about Hopi, but also wanting to educate my kids about their Filipino roots because my kids are Filipino. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to go on a big tangent, bro, but when you said East LA, it unlocked all these things that I have been compartmentalizing in my mind that I wanted to kind of open up with you because I see it in your post. I see when you have those long threads and there's conversations and people try to like, pull cards and blood quantum and pretendian and all these crazy words that have become kind of buzzwords in Indian country. And it saddens me, bro, because the more you want to lead with love and you want to just do good, a lot of times people try to bring you down.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I've had a lot of conversations about this, a lot of conversations, especially with mixed folks such as my yourself and me. And but it's like, how do I explain it? Like it seems that, like, unfortunately, with the mentality that exists within our communities and within in either community, I'm constantly battling this kind of, and no one really comes out and says it, but it really always comes off to me like you have to pick one. Like you said, why can't I be both? Why can't I acknowledge both of these? Why do I have to feel like I have to prove myself in one or the other? And then you have people who do that, and then when they do that, they tend to want to be, and I always use the phrase, be the most Indian guy in the room or the most Indian woman in the room. And that's where you see those comments come in, right? Where it's like, again, they're talking about blood quantum, or they're talking about enrollment. Do you have acceptance in your community? Do you have acknowledgement from your elders? Do you have, and it's like, no matter where you go with it, it's not enough to just say it. You have to, in their eyes, it's almost like you have to prove it, and you have to get their permission. It's like gatekeeping culture and gatekeeping identity.
Fact.
And it just doesn't make any sense to me, especially when we are constantly battling to keep our identity. We're battling to, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, what's the goal here? I feel like the goal has always been to bring our lost relatives home. Those people who are lost up in the streets, people who are lost and want to reconnect, that are from the cities and the urban Indians. And like, why we, but as soon as they come in here, this is how we meet them. That just doesn't make any sense. So it's like, so they say pretty words when it's convenient and in ceremony, and you see them saying it at powwows and saying it at this and that. But as soon as it's like, but when it happens, I see a lot of those those things pop up, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, man, and that's why I think it's important for you to be a messenger of that, because you do have such a strong following. Um, you know, your humor has a lot of weight when it comes to the skits that you do. There's
Yeah.
a lot of like undertones that for me I receive, and I'm like, yo, dude, he just dropped a jewel on us.
I'm glad you
And
see it. Yeah.
no, seriously, bro. And
Yeah.
when you see those undertones and you see those like yeah, you're laughing, but at the end of the day, there's also something that is very compelling, and I empathize with those folks that may not understand
Mhm.
the messaging and the sincerity where it's coming from. And yeah, it's through laughter and I guess you can say just uh breaking down the wall of division and making it about humor and how can I have a good time making these videos. But at the end of the day, what's so empowering is for me to gain that information and apply it to my daily life as a parent, as a relative, as a voice, as a person that wants to continue learning and
Mhm.
being a student of Indian country, because it's like a lot of landmines, bro. I'm telling you, there's so many
It's
things.
hard.
It's
Yeah,
crazy. There's a lot of
it is.
protocol you have to follow. There's a lot of like, you know, things that for us growing up in LA, we didn't know about, but we have to go and search and really understand and be mindful and empathetic that, hey, a lot of people that are living res life may not understand this perspective of city life. So, it's a growing thing for me. I'm gonna be 50 next year, and I'm happy, bro. I'm
Hey,
excited about being 50 next year. I
yeah.
love it. So it's just from the time that I battled cancer in 2014 to the time that I went to Standing Rock to the time that I started gaining the understanding of what my purpose was beyond just Black Eyed Peas, beyond just entertainment, but really being a inspiration to our seven generations and to the youth. I understood my role.
Yeah.
And my role may not always be a big role, and that's okay. I don't want to be all up in the videos, all up in the videos. I want to be behind the scenes, bro. Let me
Yeah.
be behind the scenes. Let me find the Mag Sevens. Let me find the PJ Vegas and the Dreezes and the Supermans and the Kahara Hodges and the MC ones. Let me find the Eric Hernandez hoop dancer from the Lumbee tribe. Let me find galvanize all these amazing heroes from our communities and really use my platform to amplify them because they're superstars. If I have light, they have light. If Ched Jim is part of this conversation, you best believe I'm gonna show light and show ultimate respect and understanding because I know at the end of the day, we're stronger together than we are individually.
Absolutely. Hey man, that's beautiful, man. And it really sounds like you said you had cancer in 2015.
Yes, sir.
Is that when you would say a lot of this kind of took off for you? Like you say, grow beyond the Black Eyed Peas, beyond
Yeah,
entertainment,
man. Yeah,
and
you
kind of
gotta
start this
understand,
journey for
bro.
you?
Yeah, so for all those folks that are tuned in, like my job, my profession comes with a lot of ego, a lot of bravado, comes with a lot of me, because that's self-indulgent. It's about, being on this journey of your career, and when you have something as life-threatening as this disease, creator said, "Hold on, stop with this bravado and this ego. I'm gonna strip you from all this ego and I'm gonna show you what you have been missing for all this time. You've
Mhm.
had moments of it because your grandmother taught you well,
Yeah.
but now you're gonna do a deep dive into who you are. Now you're gonna represent Indigenous excellence, right? Fuerza Indígena. Now you're gonna be that person that understands what your purpose is beyond a song and a dance. Yes, you can have a song and a dance because our dancing for us is prayer and it's healing and it's good medicine. But at the end of the day, you're gonna use your platform to bring light to other relatives from the communities, and you're gonna do a deep dive into understanding what it is to be part of Indian country and what it is to do have missteps and what it is to not be scared to say, I don't know everything about being native, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not scared of that conversation. I welcome that conversation
Mm.
because a lot of times we think, oh man, what are they gonna think of me? They're gonna think that I'm not. It's like, nah, bro, that don't matter. At the end of the day, after I battled this disease and I went to Standing Rock and I stood at the camp with elders, with allies, with relatives from different communities, singing the sacred circle, the sacred fire, and just being one with that, I understood, yo, this is who I am and this is who I'm gonna be. This is not Black Eyed Peas. This is Jimmy Gomez, proud native kid from LA that just wants to be of service. And instead of making it about me, now I'm making it about we, right?
Yeah,
It's not just about us. It's how do we make it justify the journey about how we can empower our relatives, right? And so that's why I went into bringing the Mag 7 and doing the Standing Rock song and doing One World and all these different messages about, you know, being proud of being Indigenous, because I had never done that before.
yeah,
And it's like sometimes you have a moment, you have an epiphany, you have something, a moment of clarity to understand you as a beacon of light, as a hub, as a vehicle to bring light to your communities. And Apple, my partner Apple, he's from the Philippines. He's been doing that since day one because he was born in the Philippines. So he understood I have to be an advocate for Filipinos, not just in the United States, but also back home.
yes.
So that metaphor of going back home was something that resonated with me when I went to Standing Rock, because I felt like I was home. I felt like my grandmother was shining her influence and her light and saying, aha, Jimmy, you're back. This is where you need to be. Continue on this journey because this is making me happier than anything you've ever done before.
Those are some massive life those are some massive life events. You know, I've never had cancer. I mean, but I do believe, like, you know, cancer has touched most people's lives, I feel, at this
Yeah.
point. Most people have some type of experience with it. My grandmother had cancer like 4 or 5 times, right? That kind of it's unfortunately it's happened. But I was at Standing Rock myself. I was at Standing Rocks for 6 months, you know, and I can, people who are there, we can say it, right? You don't understand. If you weren't
Yes.
there, you don't
Yes.
understand the power that that place had. Having all 750, you know, federally recognized tribal nations, and more so if you count state recognized and unrecognized tribal nations, represented at one place at one time. First time in documented history that ever happened, by the way. Coming there for one purpose, and then that purpose grows. It's not just about the pipeline. It became about Indian people. And that's why people don't understand. Like this was not just a fight with the Standing Rock Sioux. This was a like a representation of the fight that exists within all of us and all of our nations. It talks about decolonization. It's talking about you know, indigenous environmentalism and activism. It was talking about MMIW. It was talking, like, it encompassed so much. I learned more at Standing Rock in the short time that I was there than I would have ever imagined. I tell people it was like an activation ground. You know, every single day I was learning some massive mind-blowing thing and hearing some incredible elder talk and having incredible people around me. And like that's a lot. And so, like, you know, going through both of these huge life events in your life back to back, it's no wonder that it just completely like skyrocketed you towards this other direction in your life. And it's been incredible to watch, man. And like and so when it comes down to you know, you kind of I guess revisiting or rediscovering this identity, this indigenous identity, and carrying both of these identities within yourself. You know, at what point did both of these things kind of meet and you decide, I gotta reach out to the next generation, I gotta write this book?
Well, I've always been proud of both cultures, but I never understood the purpose of, you know, activism, advocacy, being a voice. Like I was like, oh, cool. My family's from Sonora. Okay, cool. I was born in East LA. I speak Spanish. Oh, cool. My grandmother's from Jerome, Arizona. She's connected to her indigenous roots. I always thought it was cool, but not as until I got older did I realize, like, okay, why am I rocking my braids like this? Why am I rocking shield right here, this bead work, or this beautiful native bling turquoise? Why am I doing this? My grandmother's rocking it. Well, why am I rocking it? So something as simple as a piece, right? To be able to understand where this comes from and why I'm rocking it. But then it's like understanding the resilience of where my grandmother came from, Jerome, the boarding school situation, her upbringing, having to become westernized in the sense of like stripping away their tradition and identity so that they can dress Western, right? So that they can have Western clothing. And this is stuff that when I found out about it, it was just mind blowing, bro. And mind blowing about the little mining town that my grandmother's from, and
Yeah.
all my aunts are from, and my uncles are from Jerome, Arizona. Look it up, man. It's only like 400 people in Jerome, Arizona.
Yeah, Jerome's super small.
Small.
Yeah, super small. I grew up in
It's a small,
Flagstaff, and Flagstaff
yeah,
is only like,
Flagstaff, dude. I'm telling you, Prescott, Flagstaff. It's all
yeah, I was
small
right
little
there.
spots.
Yeah,
So that idea of wanting to do a deep dive into where my blood comes from and where I come from, I had to say, okay, LA was the destination that my mom and my dad conceived me.
sure.
But that doesn't mean that I'm only going to think an LA mentality. So I started really doing a deep dive and wanting to understand Jerome, wanting to see what else was out there, so that I can be a student, and wanting to intersect both ideas of, the Mexicano and native or indigenous, because before the Spaniards, everybody was indigenous and in those parts of
Yep,
Mexico,
100%.
right? Tenochtitlan for the Aztecas and the Mexicas. But for me, it was that understanding and wanting to just do better as a person, because I love history. I love learning about the past, and wanting to really implement that in my daily life. Wanting to honor, like for example, yesterday my son started school yesterday, and he did a land acknowledgement.
Awesome.
While they were doing they did the Pledge of Allegiance, but he did the land acknowledgement. So for him to lead his 8th grade class with the land acknowledgement, and the whole school, that showed my influence in his life as a 13-year-old, to be like, nah, this is something that's meaningful to that part of my identity. Yes, he's Filipino, but his native identity and him wanting to connect with his roots is like, I want to honor the Tongva people because I'm standing on this land. This is the land. Los Angeles is Tongva land. So let me acknowledge it. So the reason why I tell you this is because I started understanding the intersections of both beautiful foundations and my roots and my ancestry as I started getting older. And it took me a long time, bro. I was like battling, not native enough. And I said this before, not native enough because you're not from the res, not Mexicano enough because you don't speak Spanish right. All these different pull your card moments of like, oh, you're not enough, right? And so I was like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm enough, bro. And I'm gonna be enough to be comfortable in my own skin, not be scared, not be intimidated, but welcome the uncomfortable conversations of like not knowing everything, but wanting to learn and educate myself and pass that same perspective of multiculturalism to my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know, again, you brought this up earlier, right? Like it's, you know, like I understand, I understand fully that, we don't know everything. I don't know everything. I consider myself a fairly connected person. I grew up with my traditions, my culture. I did ceremonies. I was in my traditional practices when I was less than a week old. And for the rest of my life, I've always been that way. And so I feel very fortunate in that effect. But I also understand that not a lot of people aren't fortunate. They don't have that. And and uh, and unfortunately, we have this thing where we are holding people responsible for things that they don't know, and it's super sad. Like I said, you'd mentioned, earlier about like the gatekeeping, right? Like
Yeah,
cultural gatekeeping. And I understand fully that, if you want to be able to identify and represent yourself, and I think really what it comes down to is represent your people. If you want to
exactly.
represent your people on a social, political, economical, or spiritual level, like you should have that acceptance. You should have that knowledge. You should have that reconnection journey kind of like set, right? Or yourself are connected. And I do feel like we definitely need to highlight and spotlight those people who have those things to share. If you are connected, you need a platform. You deserve a platform, because that's the only way that we're going to learn. However, as like reconnecting people, we also need to make sure too that we are not, for people who are born without that. And I see that a lot in like my personal identity. Like my grandfather, He's from San Antonio, right? He's from San Antonio. They're right there from Mexico, and but we, as far as any type of tribal identity within our like Chicano side, Mexican side, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people I've come across that say like, if you don't know that, then you can't even claim it.
Mm.
And like, so it's like, well, again, the culture, the identity was destroyed and separated through these borders, through this system, through this historical trauma. It was ripped away and taken away from us, and now you're telling me that I can't even attempt,
Yeah.
and it sucks. And that's something I don't want that's something I'm still navigating. I think a lot of us are still navigating. And I firmly believe truly that if you have that ancestry in your blood, if that is a part of who you are, regardless, and I said this in that quote that you talked about earlier, um, but if you have that, at some point in your history, you had an ancestor, you had an uncle, a grandma, a grandpa that gave their lives so that you could be here, so you can have that.
Yeah.
And you have every right to be proud of that, to acknowledge that. Again, are we representing and becoming are we going to be the voice of the people? No. But I do believe that you have the right, and you have the again, you've earned that. You've earned your ancestors, your history, your family, that love that was passed down to you from your ancestors and from your people. You deserve to have that, and you deserve to say it and be proud of it and not be made to be ashamed of it.
That's so
And
dope.
whether you have that identity or you don't, or that frame of reference you don't, I don't know who I am from the
Yeah.
Mexican side. I have no idea, but I do know that it's there. And whatever little I do have access to, I'm very proud of that. And I want my kids to have that too. And
That's
so,
dope.
and people like you and in your books, right? I think for me, it's a lot of the opposite, where it's like, I have, this Mexican side of me that I don't know very much about. I'm very connected on the native side, but not so
Yeah.
much on the Mexican. And I see a lot of people with the exact opposite. They're very good on the Chicano, Latino side or whatever, and then they're still connected to the native side. And so I identify and I relate to that so much. And and it just means a lot, man, to have you write this book. And I shared it with my kids right away, man. I was like, make sure you kids read this book and make sure you pay attention to every word, because this is absolutely true.
Yeah, man. And it was a labor of love. It was something that needed to be done because I invested in this company, a kid's book about, just because I felt like I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah.
Besides writing this book, I wanted to also invest in the future of storytelling for not just native kids, but also like kids around the world, man. Like I want to inspire kids with sometimes uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah,
And
man.
these books, a kid's book about, they don't just deal with topics that are like kid friendly. Sometimes it's like talking about divorce, families that a kid's book
Yeah,
about
dude.
divorce, a
Mhm.
kid's book about bullying, a kid's book about racism, a kid's book about activism, a kid's book about, I mean, having a period, bro. What's her name? Justin Timberlake's wife, Jessica Biel,
Yeah.
wrote a book about talking to the little girls about when they have their period, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so those are subjects that some people may call taboo, pun intended. But at the end of the day, if you don't have those conversations, where sometimes it's gonna be an uncomfortable feeling, it's gonna be like ooh, is that cringy because I'm talking to my mom about it or my dad about it?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I wish I could have had these conversations with my mom and my dad, but unfortunately I didn't. So that's why I double down by investing in this company, because they are having hard conversations with kids, and you cannot negate a kid's intelligence, bro. If you
No,
don't,
man.
you think that a kid that's able to turn on the iPad and swipe at 2 years old and know exactly what to press is not intelligent enough to understand, as they get older, conversations that are uncomfortable, then we're just like negating their intelligence. And I'm not about that. I don't want to be like, hi, mijo, you're like, when you talk to kids like that, like
Yeah.
baby, then they go into like, I am a baby. It's like, no. I'm not gonna talk to you like disrespectful or like someone from like my boy, but I'm gonna give you information that sometimes may be heavy topics. Like, why did we get divorced? Why did we have why was there people bullying this girl or this boy? And those are conversations that a lot of times we don't have, and kids are left with questioning and not understanding. And so I think with that, that's something that was very special, to be able to understand the beauty of identity and not being scared to ask questions.
Yeah, I grew up with a particular elder, and I remember this elder said something once, and he had said that we have schools for the mind. He's like, but our kids, what they need is schools for the spirit.
Correct.
And he was really adamant about that. Emotional, spiritual, and and physical, and and mental development and care and love that needs to come from your people and
Yep.
people around you. And I think so I tell people all the time, the most powerful thing I've ever done for myself has been to give myself the right to be uncomfortable, and I give myself the right to be wrong.
Mm,
I
that's
said, and being able to, so I can sit there in a space like I have the right to be wrong.
mhm.
I don't think I have the right to be intentionally wrong, but I have the right to be wrong. If I'm wrong because of a perspective, or because of a unresolved experience that I had that I'm now carrying with me, I'm projecting, or whatever it is, I have the right to have bad opinions, and I have a right to change my mind. And if I grant myself that grace, then I'm more likely, I feel like I have been, more likely to hear someone, truly hear them, not just like hear it, but like hear it.
Yeah.
Like I'm hearing you, I feel you, I can empathize with you, and I can see where maybe in my mindset and my beliefs I can be wrong. And
Well, that,
unfortunately, we live in a society where people will die on the hills that they build,
yeah.
and it's super super sad. I see it online, especially in my spaces that I have virtually. I see it every day. It's like, if you
Well,
just gave yourself that permission, it's not me, that you don't need my permission to be wrong. You need to give yourself that permission to be wrong, because that's the only way you're going to self-correct and grow.
well, that's accountability. Accountable
Exactly.
for being wrong, and knowing that you don't have all the answers, but along the way you may find someone that provokes a conversation that you're like, oh, that's profound. You know what? Hey, wait a minute. Oh, wait, I'm not gonna be stubborn and think I know everything. He just dropped the jewel on me. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, bro, going back to your memes and the funny skits that you do, you drop jewels all the time. But some people it may go over their head because they don't understand. And for me, I've been living on this earth for 50 years now, and I've seen it all. I'm going on my this year, 2024 was my 18th year of sobriety.
Oh,
So,
congratulations, man.
bro, I'm that with 9 lives. Thank you, bro.
Hey,
And you know
that's a
how
huge deal,
sacred it
man.
is, dude, for real. And for me, it's like I overindulged as a youngin. I went crazy. I went over the boundaries of
Mhm.
insanity with using and abusing. And in 2007, I became sober. And so now my vision and my understanding of the world is a lot more open. My heart is open, as opposed to being closed minded and thinking I know everything. And that goes along with accountability. Accountability for my mistakes, for my imperfectness, for my failed missteps. Because when you're vulnerable enough to say, before you tell me what's wrong with me, let me tell you what's wrong with me. Because I
Right.
know
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
the end of the day,
absolutely.
we're humans and we make mistakes and we learn from the mistakes. But accountability is something that I value, I honor, and I celebrate.
Yeah. Well, hey man, this has been incredible conversation with you, man. I really do appreciate it. And again, congrats on your sobriety, dude. I didn't know that. I've
Yep.
been sober since 2010, man.
Yes,
I
sir.
understand.
Yep.
I went through rehab. I lost a career over it, man. I get it. And it's, yeah, you're truly saving lives, and you saved your own. And I'm really happy for you that
Well,
way.
we need more heroes without capes, bro, in our
Yeah.
community. Superheroes without capes, and my grandmother was a hero without a cape in my life. And if we can lead by example, um, for I'm telling you, the 7 generations, bro, the youth. If we can be that example and role models, that's something that's important to me. The late Kobe Bryant was someone that had missteps in his life, and he was not perfect. But at the end of his understanding of being a father, he wanted to write books for his kids and for his daughters. He wanted to do the documentary that he did for to inspire kids
Yeah.
about his love of basketball, and he won the award. He was going to do an animation studio, but at the end of the day, through his missteps, through his imperfection, he learned how to become a better version as a father and as a husband to Vanessa. And so I kind of take that same metaphor of like, bro, I messed up a lot in the past, man. But if I can better myself as a human being, as a relative, as a friend, as a mentor, as an inspiration for our youth, and that's my calling, man. And that's what I want to do. That's why I like. It's important for me to continue putting on, so that others can shine, and that's important to me. Success is seeing other people's success. You know, I don't want anything from Indian country other than to shine light on relatives that deserve that light because they're heroes without capes as well, like yourself.
I appreciate that, man. I think that goes both ways. I appreciate you so much for taking the time, man. And we have a lot. I feel like there's a lot more to this conversation. We're probably.
Right?
I hope we get to do this again, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for making this possible. And again, super fan, but I'm honored to call you a friend, a brother, and just keep shining, man. We look to you for the humor, for the jewels, the gems that you drop, your humility, your vulnerability to share space through your IG and through your social media. But at the end of the day, it just makes you an all around great person, and I really appreciate calling you a friend.
You too, man. And we have a long time together, brother. We're
Yes,
doing this
sir.
again sometime, man. You have a great day.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you so
Peace.
much.
Thank you.